Hello and welcome to Amigos IAS. I am Adnan. There seems to be another flashpoint between Telangana government and Telangana governor. This time it is on the aspect of MLC nominations. So in this particular news, let us try to understand this topic from prelims and mains perspective, the role of governor. Fine. So can governor reject MLC nominations is the question. Actually, in the first week of August, Telangana State Cabinet has recommended two persons, Dasojo Shravan and Kurra Satyanarayana, to the MLC quota. Governor has one-sixth of the seats he can nominate to the he or she can nominate one-sixth of the members of the legislative council as per the quota. So in this, what happens is governor has to accept the recommendations given by the cabinet. Can the governor reject the aspects of the nomination decision taken by the cabinet or not? We have to wait and watch. Just hold on. Fine. So as of now, what happened was, even though the state cabinet recommended two persons as MLCs, governor has outrightly refused by saying that those two MLCs, those two candidates do not have knowledge or practical experience in their relevant fields. Fine. And governor rejected the uh, message or the decision taken by the cabinet of Telangana. So can the governor have these powers or not? We have to understand. But before going to the topic, we should first understand what is the composition of legislative councils and how people are elected or nominated into legislative councils. So, out of 28 states in India, 6 states are having legislative councils. So, how to remember them? First is the Telugu states, Telangana and AP, then the neighboring states, Maharashtra and Karnataka, and then we have the northern states, UP and Bihar. So, 6 states have legislative council. Which article talks about the composition of legislative council? It is Article 171. It talks about composition of the legislative councils. So in that, clause 1 says that the maximum strength of legislative council cannot be more than one third of the strength of the legislative assembly. That is one condition. And there should be at least 40 members in the legislative council. I repeat, it should not exceed one third of strength of assembly of that particular state. And second condition is what? At least 40 seats should be there in the legislative council. That is clause 1. Clause 2 says parliament can decide the composition. They can change it in future. It is their choice. Clause 3 talks about these aspects. As you can see, A, B, C, D, and till here it is E. So that means how actually election or nomination happens is mentioned in clause 3. That is what is there on your screen right now. Then clause 4 says the elections happen as per proportional representation with single transferable vote. That is the clause 4. Then last clause 5. Clause 5 talks about this particular aspect. As you can see, governor can nominate the MLCs from which fields. Okay, as you can see, literature, science, art, cooperative movement, social service. These are mentioned in clause 5. So 171 article has 5 clauses. Fine. So as I explained here, please do keep an eye on this because I'll be discussing this further. So if I see this particular clause 3 now, clause 3 talks about this A, B, C, D, E options. How election happens? Let us see here. Out of this legislative council, one third members are elected by the members of local bodies. That is the first argument here. And 1/12 are elected by the graduates who are having 3 years standing. That means at least 3 years before you should have completed your graduation from any university all over the India, but you should be residing within that state where you are actually voting for these particular candidates. Then 1/12 of the seats are elected by teachers who are having at least 3 years experience of teaching in that state. Okay, not lower standard than secondary school, but means not primary school, but at least secondary school standard or more should be there for the teachers to vote in the MLC elections. One third are elected by the MLAs of that particular state. Fine. See here, members of legislative assembly of the state. They should be choosing one third members. And what about the remaining? Remaining is one sixth. So one third is local bodies, one third is MLAs, 1/12 by teachers and graduates, and remaining means one sixth of the quota is filled by governor. This is what the ABCDE of 171 clause 3 talks about. Then 171 clause 5 says that governor can nominate. See, These guys are elected indirectly, of course, by proportional representation. Then what about nomination? Nomination is done by governor. From what fields? The constitution says literature, science, art, cooperative movement, social service. And from these fields only you can choose the nominated members. You can nominate. Governor can use these particular options. Now this actually is the source of the controversy here. Fine. In Telangana, 40 is the strength of the legislative council. Out of this, 14 are elected by the state legislatures and 14 are chosen by local bodies, which is the panchayat and municipalities, and 3 seats are there for the graduates, fine, and 3 are there for the teachers, and remaining how many are there? 6 members, as you can count here. So 40 is the strength here. 6 are nominated by governor. This is the argument you have to understand from Telangana perspective. So that means Telangana as of now has vacancies in the governor's quota to be filled in the Telangana's 40-member MLC, okay, constituencies. But the governor has advised the cabinet and CM KCR, please don't bring political persons into this quota because they are not fulfilling the criteria as mentioned in Article 171 Clause 5. They do not belong to any of those fields the governor has said. See here, even if the persons are doing great political work, okay, active participation in politics, corporate, academic sectors, it does not indicate any special achievements in literature, science, art, cooperative movement, and social service. Hence, there was no consideration of the fulfillment of the conditions. So, governor has purely gone by the text of 171 clause 5, which talks about the categories from which you can nominate the members to this legislative council. Because the two suggested BRS leaders are not coming under any of these categories, it means governor is saying that I cannot. They may have done great work in the political fields, but they may have come from backgrounds of backward caste and ST, but I will not be nominating them to the council because they do not fulfill the criteria mentioned in Article 171 Clause 5. So in this aspect, we have to understand different viewpoints. What are the experts saying here? Because see here, former Advocate General Telangana K. Ramakrishna Reddy, he is saying that governor is right in this decision to reject the proposal because governor has the powers to follow 171 clause 5. And what he has said, now there are two options with Telangana government. Well, first option is the chief secretary, who is the highest IAS officer in the state. He should provide necessary material because the MLC governor has said that there is not enough material in the files, that why you are selecting these persons. So provide us more material, actually what work they have done in those fields, then I can nominate them. So that means now the chief secretary has to give relevant data or information that what experience those two leaders have in the fields as mentioned in Article 171 Clause 5. Then only governor will nominate them under the governor's quota. Or second option is what? Have two other persons from different fields. Again, of course, Telangana government may not consider this because they wanted those two persons to be there in the legislative council. If not for them, actual people who have done the work in those fields mentioned, literature, science, art, cooperative movement, social service. In these fields, you can still be happily recommending the members to the legislative quota here. So, are the decisions of the cabinet binding on the governor? Also, we have to understand here. So, again, the expert has mentioned here that governor had exceptional powers under the provisions of the constitution, and all cabinet decisions are not binding on the governor. So, a lot of viewpoints come here because the role of the governor is very controversial in India. I will be explaining that further. So, we have to understand Article 163 here. It says what? There shall be a council of ministers headed by the chief minister who will aid and advise the governor, and the governor shall act on the advice except in the matters which fall under governor's discretion, which means this kind of text is not in Article 74 for President of India, but for governor this aspect is mentioned. It means it is the discretion of the governor in some matters where he may or she may not follow what council of ministers say. And what matters actually come under the governor's discretion are not mentioned, but clause 2 of Article 163 says it is governor's decision as to which matters fall under his or her discretion. That means the constitution leaves some good scope for the governor to have discretionary powers and not to accept whatever the council of ministers advise the governor. That is what is the argument mentioned by the expert Ramakrishna Reddy, former Advocate General. Fine. And that means 171 clause 5 is obviously violated in this current decision by Telangana government. So there is no compulsion. Even if government goes to court, What court will say? Court will not accept the government's argument that those people should belong into any of those fields. They don't belong into any of those fields is the argument made by governor. That means legal remedies are not there as per this expert. But again, we have to understand one important point. Sachin Tendulkar's nomination to Rajya Sabha as an MP in 2012 has to be discussed here, because similarly as governor has the quota, Article 80 of the Constitution says the president can nominate how many? 12 MPs to the Council of States. That is the point here. So at that time, Rekha, Sachin were given the nominated MP quota as per the Article 80. But again, Article 80 talks about the same grounds as mentioned in Article 171, Clause 5, except a cooperative movement. That means literature, science, art, social service. Sachin Tendulkar, under what category you appointed? Government said we appointed him as an artist because sports also is an arts, and Tendulkar is a distinguished citizen of India. And even though Tendulkar is not from any of the fields like literature, science, art, social service, but we want to nominate Tendulkar on the arts category because we call him as an artist. In fact, he was the first cricketer to be getting this nomination as Rajya Sabha MP at that time. An MLA has filed his PAL in the Delhi High Court saying that, so this is completely unconstitutional because the grounds for appointing Sachin or nominating Sachin is not valid in the constitution. So in that time, at the time, central government replied to that particular argument in the Delhi High Court by saying that, sir, special knowledge and practical experience required for the purpose of Article 80 is not confined to the four categories alone, but they are also including sports, education, law, history, academic attainments, Indology, study of India, academic history of India, economics, journalism, or similar field of human endeavor. Which means, as arguments made by BRS MLAs or BRS leaders, that those two members may not be from social service, but they have participating in politics and doing great activity. Telangana movement they participated, and politics also involves social issues. So social service they have done, even though they are distinct fields, but their pursuit is almost the same, their end goal is same. That means, as per their argument, we can stretch the social service to even politics is the argument made by not only BRS leaders but many of the persons, because in the past we have seen so many politicians, so many political leaders nominated to the legislative councils as well as Rajya Sabha as well. In Rajya Sabha, we have seen so many nominations of MPs under the president's quota of nominations. Those people were actually active politicians. So there is one law, and now there is one law. This question is being asked by some of the persons. So again, we have to see all sides of the argument, not just one side. So we have to understand the viewpoint of everyone, because there is no uniformity in the decisions, right? Constitution also leaves scope for interpretation. As a result, many times we are not able to see concrete decisions, with clear-cut clarity here. As a result, there is some argument in the BRS government to say that why you are not following the similar patterns for Rajya Sabha MPs? Is it only there for this particular aspect? Another not related to this, but another aspect mentioned here is governor herself has been an active politician. Tamil Nadu BJP state president she was, and then she was made as Telangana governor. So we have to understand Sarkaria Commission and Punchi Commission recommendations. So in these Sarkaria Commission recommendations during governor, what they have told as per governor should not have participated in politics recently before getting appointed as governor. So no political participation in the recent years. Punchi Commission told at least before getting appointed as governor, at least before 2 years, you should not participate in active politics. But again, an active politician has been made as a governor is argument made by the BRS leaders here. So that means here, as you can see, there is no uniformity in application of commission recommendations and even constitutional provisions also. By seeing the example of Sachin Tendulkar, we understand that a central government argument that the grounds mentioned in Article 80 and 171 Clause 5 are only illustrative but not exhaustive is the argument here. If this rule is followed, then it means what? We can nominate any person from any field. That is what is the argument. Again, the courts have to give a clarity on this matter. That's why we cannot have one single answer on this particular issue. So is the list only indicative and illustrative, or is it exhaustive? We cannot add any other fields in this. This is a thing which courts have to decide in India. Preferably the apex Supreme Court has to decide on this aspect once and for all. for the future. Okay, otherwise we'll keep having this kind of flashpoints between center and states many times. Fine. And to conclude this particular topic, is the governor bound by the advice of council of ministers? There are different case laws also. Shamsher Singh versus state of Punjab, Nabam Rabia versus deputy speaker 2016. These two cases are important to understand. In both these cases, the Supreme Court has held, the governor has to be bound by the advice given by the council of ministers. Governor should not take their own independent executive decisions, was told by the Supreme Court in both of these judgments. It was 7-judge bench in Shamsher Singh, state of Punjab, very important case in India with respect to the role of the governor. So can governor take independent decision? But again, the point is these articles are there, right? These articles create some kind of issues regarding discretionary powers of the governor. And Article 200 also is there, where the governor can reserve the bills for the president, and then governor can also write letters to the government with respect to state following the constitution or not, and based on governor's report sometimes president's rule can be imposed. That means there are so many such provisions in the constitution where governor enjoys discretionary powers. But what about the advices given by the council of ministers? Are they binding on governor or not? This, several judgments have told that governor has to accept. In fact, Ambedkar also, the Constitution of India, mentioned that governor has no powers in our constitutional setup and should act only in accordance with the advice given by the Council of Ministers in the state. This is the argument given by B.R. Ambedkar also. Governor is only a constitutional figurehead who enjoys no real power. But again, because of having different political parties ruling in center and states, we are seeing a lot of points of disagreement between the governors and the chief ministers in various states like Tamil Nadu, Kerala, and also Telangana. So once and for all, of course, we cannot expect solution to come very soon on the matter of governor's role, but this keeps remaining a bone of contention in the federal scheme of India. In the federal scheme of India, the role of governor becomes quite critical. Sometimes it creates unnecessarily points of contention between the elected government and a person who has been selected by the president of India. So we have to wait and watch what the courts are going to decide further on this particular issue. So that's it for today's class. I will see you again. Thank you.